So we've got everybody here, and I will call this meeting to order, the May 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Select Board pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. On March 29, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act making appropriations for the fiscal year 2023 to provide for supplementing certain existing appropriations and for certain other activities and projects. This act includes an extension until March 31, 2025 of the remote meeting provisions. The May 22, 2023 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. I will grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting. Is there anyone else who wishes to record the meeting? I see no affirmative responses. So I will move right into the chair's update. As this is my first full meeting as chair, I first want to reiterate that we encourage participation in our meetings. I'm aware that some select boards in Massachusetts only allow for public comment at the very beginning of each meeting. And by contrast, we've been taking residents' participation and questions throughout our meetings, and in addition to our designated period for public and press. In addition, you can reach us directly by email at selectboard@townhall.westwood.ma.us. Regarding our meeting format, I've taken the liberty of adding to our regular agenda items a report of the town administrator so that Chris Coleman can give us an update on town projects and events, and also highlight the great work that's being done by our dedicated town employees. And lastly, and this one is for my colleagues, my inclination is that we dispense with the formality of referring to each other as Mr. or Ms., particularly as we typically refer to our town staff participants by their first names. Are you both comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So turning to the rest of the chair's update, I want to give an update on the union negotiations with the Westwood Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 1994 IAFF. By way of background, the collective bargaining agreement between the town and the fire union expired on June 30, 2021. The union filed for mediation at the Joint Labor Management Committee, or JLMC, in December of 2022, and both parties are continuing with the JLMC process. Given questions that we've received from residents about the town's role in the negotiations, we released a statement last week providing some of the procedural history to date. We will also be providing a little later this week supporting documentation for that statement, and both the statement and the supporting documentation will be found on the town's webpage, on the home page. While the procedural history provides context, what we really need to focus our collective time and energy on is where we are now in the process. And let me be clear that the town, the select board, and I believe all our residents deeply respect and are grateful to the Westwood Fire Department for the service they provide to us 24/7, 365 days a year. My own family and many of yours have had the experience of having your lives and your property protected by the Westwood Fire Department. At the same time, we as a select board also have a fiduciary duty to you as residents in negotiating all union contracts to ensure that they are equitable and sustainable in our budget. The current status of the negotiations is that the town presented a counter offer to the union on May 5th, to which we have not received a response. We understand that a vote is expected on May 25th on whether to move this matter to arbitration, which I'm advised would likely delay the resolution on the contract by a number of months. That said, there is the willingness and opportunity to continue negotiating In the mediation process, the town remains very committed to that in hopes that we can get a swift, equitable, and final agreement with the union. I believe I can speak for my colleagues in saying that the town's public safety is our highest priority, which is why the Select Board has commissioned both a feasibility study as to Fire Station 1 and an operational study as to the level of service provided by the fire department. We have not yet received these reports, as they have been delayed somewhat by a personal issue encountered by one of the consultants, but we will be discussing them once we've received them, and hopefully that will be in the very near future. Moving on to the Memorial Day Parade, which will be held on May 29th, starting at 10 a.m. The parade begins at Town Hall and will proceed down Route 109 High Street to the new Westwood Cemetery, where a Memorial Day ceremony will be held. Town staff and volunteers will be busy replacing flags and planting flowers on all veterans' graves in the new cemetery and the old cemetery this week and through the upcoming weekend. If you would like to volunteer to replace flags or plant flowers, please send an email to volunteers@townhall.westwood.ma.us, and town staff will respond with more information. And now, as is our tradition, as the new chair, I would like to recognize our outgoing chair, Robert Gotti's major achievements during the previous year. Settle in, Rob. Robert Gotti has provided strong leadership and guidance to the board throughout the past year in various capacities, including but not limited to serving on additional boards and committees such as Westwood Environmental Action Committee, the School Building Committee, Long Range Financial Planning Committee, and the John J. Cronin Public Service Award Selection Committee. A few of Rob's accomplishments this year as Select Board Chair from 2022 to 2023 include, but are not limited to, the following. In the area of finance, the approval of the use of ARPA funds to be used for a townwide disability audit, to increase social service programs to provide residents essential direct services, to repair an existing HVAC unit at the library, to update and expand equipment and add accessible elements at the School Street Playground, and $1.1 million for HVAC system work at the new Hanlon, Deerfield, or Pine Hill Elementary School. In addition, with respect to finance, the board adopted the financial policies for the town, repurposed the Long Range Financial Planning Committee to focus on long-term financial issues, including capital planning. And at the 2022 annual meeting, residents voted to appropriate $300,000 to the Aid to the Elderly and Disabled Fund. With respect to the Hanlon Deerfield School Building Project, the board oversaw, under Rob's leadership, the approval of the bond for the school building project for $56.6 million at a net interest rate of 3.7%. This was the largest bond issuance in the town's history. With respect to the library, Lynn Vitti was appointed as Westwood's first poet laureate. With respect to renewable energy savings, we received the 2022 Green Communities Grant of $90,000 to install LED lighting at the Sheehan Elementary School and an HVAC upgrade at the Thurston Middle School. The board approved a plan to install electric vehicle charging stations at the Westwood Police Station and Wentworth Hall. The board approved preliminary plans to install solar parking arrays in the Senior Center and Police Station parking lot areas, and voted to approve a solar phase 2 power purchase agreement for the Westwood High School parking lot canopies. And the Westwood Community Choice Electricity Aggregation Plan was launched in March of 2023, a program designed to provide new, competitively priced electricity supply options and more renewable energy for residents and business. With respect to public safety, the board accepted a $58,000 Community Compact Cabinet Information Technology Grant as awarded to the police department, which will modernize all of the in-vehicle computer equipment to include electronic citation capability, approved the use of University Station mitigation funds for a fire department operational study to evaluate staffing and operational needs for the fire department with current and projected growth in workload. With respect to veteran services, the board approved the Purple Heart Proclamation to officially recognize Westwood as a Purple Heart community, and for this to be recognized each year on August 7th. With respect to personnel, the board appointed Phil Shapiro as interim town treasurer until 2024 and recognized Pam Dukeman on her retirement after 31 years of distinguished service, and dedicated and renamed the Wentworth Hall Large Conference Room as the Dukeman Community Room. With respect to Department of Public Works, the board accepted the MassDOT Local Bottleneck Reduction Program grant of up to $495,000 to be used for an adaptive traffic control system on Route 109. With respect to facilities, the board accepted a municipal ADA improvement grant of up to $100,000 to complete a self-evaluation study of all town facilities, programs, and services. With respect to community and economic development, the board approved a community services agreement for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute proton therapy facility on University Station. The CSA will provide a minimum pilot payment of $380,000, and the facility will be one of only 2 in Massachusetts. And I know that that is a project that Tom spent a great deal of his time and effort on this year. And we also welcome new businesses to Westwood: the Muffin House, Neroli Mercado, Neroli Ristorante, and Pliables. And last but not least, Rob oversaw the successful annual town meeting on May 1, 2023, where the town voted in support of all 20 warrant articles as presented, including a home rule petition to create the appointed positions of town treasurer and tax collector. On a personal note, I will add that Rob successfully led the select board this year, despite great personal losses over the span of that same year, and yet he never skipped a beat with respect to the energy and the commitment that he dedicated to the select board and to his role as chair. These are very big shoes to fill, Rob, and we thank you for your strong leadership.
Thank you very much, Marianne. I really appreciate those kind words, and really that list is emblematic of the hard work and dedication of so many talented folks on our town staff as well. And so I thank you for the recognition and appreciate it. And I have no doubt that you will fill those shoes more than adequately.
Thank you, Rob. With that, we will move on to the town administrator's report. Chris.
Well, thank you, Marianne. Just want to provide the community and the board with some updates on things that are going on in town. And first, I would like to thank Marianne for her visit to our Gold Star mother this morning, Miss Christine Devlin. The very nice words she said and the gift that she provided. I'm sure the board would have been, if you were present, would have been very pleased with the words that she shared. And I know the Devlin family was very appreciative. So Marianne, thank you for that work and for taking the time to honor our Gold Star mother. Just a few updates. Farmers Market. It's coming back to Westwood. So the Farmers Market will be on Wednesdays between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. starting on June 7th at St. Margaret Mary's Church parking lot. From what I've understood, this was something that happened prior to my arrival, and it's something that many residents are eagerly awaiting the return. So very happy to share that news. So, update regarding the School Street Playground. This is the work from our recreation director and our assistant recreation director to update the School Street Playground. There's been a number of things that have happened. The playground was closed starting on May 15th. Equipment was staged. Demolition began last week. And I'm happy to report that we have some progress. We have the new seesaw has been installed. We have the new merry-go-round that's being installed. So the equipment is being installed, and the plan is for it to reopen in early June. So we're very happy with the update and the hard work of our recreation department and the leadership of our director and our assistant director in that regard. We have want to thank our COA team for their ongoing work, honoring a variety of people, including our veterans. Our COA will be holding the annual Veterans Memorial Breakfast on Friday, May 26th. This is something that they have done quite often, and we're very happy to have it. We have at least 21 veterans who have signed up for this breakfast, so we're very excited about that. Our Public Works Department has been doing a lot of work on Clapboard Tree Street and Canton Street. That work is ongoing, and we should be seeing some very fruitful results shortly. I also want to highlight the work that our DPW director and our assistant DPW director did during the Canton Street Sidewalk Project public session. So just to be clear, the work that's being done on Canton Street is not related to the Sidewalk Street project. But there was a community meeting that was had last week. It was well attended. There was a lot of discussion that was going on, and I believe that the information provided from our consultants, as well as our DPW director and assistant DPW director, really provided some factual-based information for our residents to consider, think about, as well as to ask additional questions. So I think, and I know that the board was present for that meeting, and I'm sure you have your own thoughts on that, but I thought they did a really good job allowing that conversation to be had. There's a lot of passion with the work that's being proposed, and the residents certainly came and shared their concerns, shared their support, and asked the questions. It was a really productive meeting, and I want to thank the leadership of our DPW for that. Lastly, just a quick update on the traffic signals at Washington, East, and School Streets intersection. So we do have work, I believe, was supposed to begin this week, Nora, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes.
There was some new equipment installed.
That's right. Reflector plates that have to go on the lights before the traffic study is performed.
So that will begin this week, and the traffic counts will be conducted regarding the potential left-hand turn from the southbound Washington Street onto East Street. That work is planned for June 1st. Should we be able to get everything installed at that time? We did have one matter that was identified. The Mass Bay Electric required a structural analysis of the nearly 30-year-old mast arm for installing that heavier signal head. And we'll also have our consultants look into that as well once we get that report to determine whether or not the left-hand turn should be allowed and required. So we're working on that, and we'll certainly be advising the board once we get that analysis and share that information with the board and the community. And I want to just take a moment, Mary Ann, if I can just thank all the town employees for all the work that they've done, not just this month, but throughout the year, pre-COVID, during COVID, and currently, to get the town in the condition that it's in, the respect that it's earned, and the work that continues to be done. So I just would like to thank all the team members for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, well, we will now move into our public hearing. This is for an alcohol compliance check failure by Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza at 119 University Avenue. And I believe we have with us Chief Silva and Nora. And who do we have from Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza? Would you please identify yourselves for the record?
I believe we have Elizabeth Pisano and Christopher Dimmick. Am I saying that right? Or Dimmick?
Okay, if I could ask the folks from Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza to please identify themselves.
Sorry, my computer was slow in letting me in here. I'm just trying to start this up.
I apologize. I had you on mute.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to navigate this thing. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Elizabeth Pisano from Upton, Connell, and Devlin, counsel on behalf of Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. With me tonight is the new proposed manager of record, Christopher Demack, and the regional manager, Tony Chichi. Anthony's, oh, I don't know if you want me to get into it now or if you have to read the police report or anything.
Ms. Episano, I think we'll hear from our chief of police first with respect to the violation, and then turn to you and your colleagues for comment. Chief Silva, would you take us through this, please? Good evening, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, good evening. My pleasure. So we routinely conduct alcohol compliance checks of our what we call pouring and non-pouring establishments in town, or for those more familiar with the license section, the section 15 and section 12 liquor license holders in town. And so back on March 23rd, a couple of members of our department, our detective sergeant and one of our officers, who's now a detective, along with two underage operatives, if you will, went out and conducted these compliance checks. The way we do that is we background screen responsible young adults who are not 21 years old. They have their actual ID. Not only when licensees get their license, but periodically throughout the year, we put notice on our Twitter page or other places that we conduct these alcohol compliance checks. And there's no trickery. There's no ruse. We just send underage people into our establishments to see if they can procure liquor. And so usually we have great success with that. Occasionally, we have some that do not pass. In this instance, we had a violation from Anthony's. It's a subsequent violation where the two undercover operatives for the police department went in, asked to order alcohol. They were not asked to produce any ID as required, so no ID was checked. Both of these people were 18 years old, and then they were served liquor. And once they're served liquor, they notify the police officers by text message. And the police officers who are right outside the door come inside and have contact with the management. So for purposes of review and for the public, the alcohol laws are governed by Chapter 138. Chapter 138, Section 34 makes a number of alcohol-related offenses as it relates to minors a criminal offense. It's also arrestable. However, we try to work with our businesses because we're trying to gain compliance. We're not trying to have a gotcha moment, so to speak. We're not trying to harm businesses. We're not trying to embarrass anybody, but we are trying to keep people safe. We're trying to make sure that alcohol and young people do not mix well, and they do not occur with our licensed establishments in town. So we sent our police officers in, had a conversation with the person who was in charge that evening, and we subsequently filed a report. And that's what led us to this hearing tonight.
Thank you, Chief. With respect to Anthony's coal-fired pizza, we obviously welcome your business in Westwood, but this is something that we take very seriously in Westwood. So let me turn to you, Ms. Episano, for your comments.
Sure. So we would like to apologize to the board in the town of Westwood. Anthony's coal-fired pizza takes this very seriously, and they do accept full responsibility. They've taken several remedial actions to ensure nothing like this ever happens again here. Besides their pre-meal meetings, where there is a constant reminder of what the proper service of alcohol requires. They've implemented many new strategies with the entire staff to make sure this doesn't happen. They have had all their servers and bartenders retake their tip certification course, so they're all up to speed. The bartender in question did get suspended, so there was a personal consequence for her. And it wasn't just her who did the recertification, it was the entire staff from the restaurant. Their new policy is going to be carding absolutely everybody, regardless of what their age appearance may be. So we're sorry if we're offending grandma and grandpa, but that's what the policy is going to be straightforward now. It's just carding absolutely everybody. They're going to do their own practice things in store. So they're going to have managers from other locations pop in and make sure that, if they ask for a drink, they're getting carded. They're just practice routine stuff within their own management company, just to check in to make sure what they're doing is working. And they are working on, and if they have not already implemented, an employee acknowledgement form where they'll have employees review and sign, just making sure they all understand and will adhere to the rules and regulations relating to the sale of alcohol. So those are some big steps that they have taken to make sure something like this never happens again. Like I said, they do take full responsibility, and they're doing everything they can right now. And since this incident happened, to make sure that they avoid any issues in the future. They are a big part of the Westwood community, and they enjoy being there and serving the community. And we hope that something like this never happens again. I don't know if Tony Chichi is in the waiting room, or if he is on here. I know he was just going to pop on and just make a quick statement, but otherwise, I'm happy to answer any other questions from the board or Chief Silva.
Tony does appear to be, just promoted him as a panelist. There you go.
Hi, Tony.
Well, thank you. Did he want to say something?
I don't know if he's unmuting himself or not.
Well, we appreciate all of the affirmative steps that you are now taking to ensure this does not happen again. The Alcohol Review Committee did review this matter. Is there someone here that wants to speak to that?
Nora.
Yes, I can speak to that. So the Alcohol Review Committee met on May 4th, and we reviewed the results of the compliance checks. We noted that Anthony's had one previous violation, thankfully more than 4 years ago. So they've had a long run of successful operation. And the Alcohol Review Committee recommended that the select board follow its standard procedures. There was a protocol established in 2018 that sets forth the different options for the board to consider penalties for various violations. The board recommends that you stay within, the Alcohol Review Committee recommends you stay within those guidelines. And they specifically recommend that the board consider a 3-day suspension with 1 day to move forward at this time, and the other 2 days to be held in abeyance for a period of up to a year. And if Anthony's does not have another violation within that year period, those 2 other days would be dismissed. So that's the recommendation to the board. The board also recommends that the Alcohol Review Committee also recommends that the board consider other measures that were taken with previous incidents where the board required that if those days that are held in abeyance are needed to be served due to another violation, that they be required to serve those days on the immediately preceding Friday and Saturday, 2 successive days. But for the initial instance of suspension, the Alcohol Review Committee recommends that the board choose a date that seems most appropriate to the board.
And I understand in the past, the date for the service of a suspension has been coordinated between the licensee and the Westwood Police Department. Would that be fair to say, Chief and Nora?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nora. Questions or comments from my colleagues?
I would support the recommendations of the Alcohol Committee, recommendations to follow the guidelines. So the 1 day suspension will certainly send the message, and the 2 days in abeyance where it impacts the Friday and Saturday provides adequate incentive, having been in that industry, quite adequate incentive for them to comply and get everybody properly trained.
I'll second that motion, Rob.
Well,
I haven't made a motion yet.
Oh,
right.
That was just my comment.
Okay.
Before we do, we do need to open it up to the public. This is a public hearing. I do see we have a question in the queue on another issue not having to do with this hearing. So we will get to those later. right now we want to entertain questions relative to this public hearing. So if you have a comment or a question relative to this public hearing, please put it in the queue in the chat now. I am not seeing any. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the select board to impose a 3-day alcohol license suspension for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza, with 2 days to be held in abeyance pending any further infractions within a year of the select board's decision. Should there be any infraction in that time frame, the aforementioned 2 days, 2-day suspensions will occur immediately on the next closest Friday and Saturday to the infraction, in addition to any other action the board may subsequently deem appropriate. And that should be the 1-day alcohol suspension will be served on the date to be coordinated.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we have another item.
We do. Just back
Anthony.
on the violation really quickly. How soon is that 1-day suspension to be served? Or is that something I'll coordinate with the police department directly?
I think that's the idea, that you should coordinate with the police. They will monitor that situation that day when it occurs, as I understand it. So
Okay.
that you coordinated directly with the police.
Okay. Okay. And yes, I'm here for the next item. So if you want to read it off, then I'll chime in.
Terrific. Thank you. So moving on, actually, we need a motion first to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
the second matter is also a public hearing.
Thank you, Pat.
So why don't you hold off closing the public hearing?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Thank you. Remind me then. All right, moving on, we have a change of manager application from Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. Anthony's has submitted a change of manager application to name Christopher Dimmick, who is with us today, as manager of record at Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza at 119 University Avenue. Ms. Episano, we'll hear from you on this.
Yes. Good evening again, Elizabeth Pisano from Upton, Connell, and Devlin for the record. This application is for a change of manager. The new proposed manager's name is Christopher Dimmick. He is on here with me tonight. Christopher is TIP certified. He's a Massachusetts resident and a U.S. citizen. He has 5 years of managerial experience in the food and beverage industry. He joined Anthony's Coal-Fired back in January, and he is excited to be a part of the Westwood community. And we're here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Nora, would you like to add anything as far as your vetting? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Just one thing I'll point out, although Christopher joined Anthony's in January, he was not actually present during the violation. Just get that out of the way. So the Alcohol Review Committee did review his application, and they report that all of the paperwork is in order, that the Corey research has been favorable, and the Alcohol Review Committee recommends that the select board approve the application for Christopher Dimmick to be the new manager.
Thank you, Nora. Questions or comments from my colleagues?
Oh, I would imagine if this is Chris's first day proposed as the manager at Anthony's Coal-Fired, even though he's only got, one of his past experiences in the management world where there's alcohol involved, he gets the seriousness with which we take the issue here in town. So I don't expect that'll be a problem whatsoever.
All right. Do we have any comment or questions on this issue? I am not seeing any. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
All right, I'd like to propose the select board to approve Chris Demick as the manager of record at Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza at 119 University Avenue upon the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission approval and for the electronic signature of the select board to be affixed to the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission Licensing Authority certification form.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Welcome to town, Chris.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a request to, we've got to close the hearing. Thank you. May I have a motion to close that public hearing, please?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you. Now we will move on to a special education reserve fund transfer request. Stephanie, are you going to take us through this?
Sure, I can. This
you.
is for the select board to review and approve the transfer of $600,000 that currently sits in the Special Education Reserve Fund and transfer that amount to the Special Education Cost Account. This is to be used at the Westwood Public Schools. The school administration had requested this through the school committee, and they voted at their last meeting on May 10th to approve that transfer on there. And just per the regulations of this fund, it requires a vote of both the school committee and the select board. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions or comments from my colleagues?
None from me.
None.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move the select board approve to transfer funds in the amount of $600,000 from the Special Education Reserve Fund to the Special Education Cost Account.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Moving on, we have appointment of Care of Graves Officer. And with us, we have Michelle Miller, our Procurement Officer. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
And Chris, I think you're going to take us through this, please.
Yes, Marianne, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back in fiscal year 22, the town joined the West Suburban Veterans District, and the district provides our veteran services, and we have different office hours, and we have a representative here on Mondays, at our Council on Aging. Prior to that, in addition to serving as our procurement officer, Michelle served as our veterans agent as well. And as part of that, she was also the Care of Graves. Since we went to and joined the West Suburban Veterans District, Michelle continues to serve as Care of Graves, but I have not made the recommendation to the board to appoint her into that role. So this evening, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws 115, Section 9, the select board in each town shall appoint a resident who shall be a veteran and serve as a veteran's grave officer. The duty of the veteran's grave officer is to make sure that every veteran's graves are kept and cared for. And Michelle has done this for years. In towns where cemeteries contain veterans' graves, a flag shall be placed at each grave on Memorial Day. Michelle is already coordinating that for this year's observation as well. And Michelle is, again, as you said, Madam Chair, she's the procurement officer, but she's a veteran, she's a resident, and she served the country proudly in the United States Air Force. So it's my recommendation to the board that Michelle Miller be appointed as our Care of Graves, and there is a stipend that goes along with this additional duty.
I can't think of anyone better suited to do this work. Michelle, you do so much for our veterans in town, and we thank you for that. Questions or comments from my colleagues?
I will say I agree with what you just said with that, and as such, I will enthusiastically move to ask the select board to appoint Michelle Miller as the Care of Graves Officer for a term to expire as mutually agreed upon by the town and the select board.
I will just as enthusiastically second that motion.
Roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I enthusiastically vote aye as well. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Thank
Michelle.
you. All right, moving on. We are going to have a discussion now regarding the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, which Rob has been chairing this year. And as we discussed earlier, is tasked with focusing on the long-term financial issues of the town, including capital budgeting. The committee is comprised of 13 voting members and 9 non-voting members. As a side note, Mr. Privatera, your term has expired with your election
Adios.
to the select board. So we need to replace you there. And we are going to be reappointing members to Long Range at our meeting on June 21st. So I'd like you, Joe, and Rob to be thinking about a replacement for Joe and try to come up with some folks who would be willing and to do the job and work with that group. That said, I'd like to recommend and want to discuss with you that the Long Range Financial Planning Committee consider as part of its work the adoption of the Community Preservation Act. Now, I know a lot of folks in town are familiar, but for those who are not, the Community Preservation Act, or CPA, is a smart growth tool. It's a statutory program in Massachusetts that helps communities preserve open space and historic sites, create affordable housing, and develop outdoor recreational facilities. Cities and towns that adopt the CPA generate money for the local community through the implementation of a CPA property tax surcharge and through the receipt of annual state matching funds. The CPA has been considered in Westwood in the past in 2008 and 2019. And the 2021 comprehensive plan strongly recommends that we study the CPA again. So I'm very much hoping that the Long Range Financial Planning Committee would commit to studying the CPA as recommended by the comprehensive plan, and then make a recommendation to the select board in short order. And would love to hear your thoughts on this, Rob and Joe.
So I think we should be looking at any and all funding options for the various long-range financial planning capital projects that we have identified. And so this, to me, is consistent with the charge and the mission of the group and the type of discussions that we should be having as a community. So would be happy to see that considered by that group.
Marianne, I'm thrilled to hear you reference the comprehensive plan. People spent a lot of time, did a lot of work on that, and did some great work. And I agree with Rob. I think it's time to revisit this.
Terrific. I think we have a consensus on that. We don't need to vote, but we've got agreement on that being a direction that the Long Range Financial Planning Committee will take in studying the CPA. And I should mention that historically in Westwood, it has been the Long Range Financial Planning Committee that has studied the CPA in the past. So there's been quite a lot of work done, and we can build upon that to take a fresh look and make a fresh recommendation to the town. So thank you.
Before we move off of the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, I just wanted to check, as we are looking for a replacement for Joe, given his election and moving to the select board, have we confirmed with all other current members that they are willing to continue? I don't know if, sometimes there are changes in circumstances. Just want to make sure that, we don't have to find a second or a third replacement.
I will reach out to all of them and let you know if they're willing to continue on the committee.
That sounds good.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, moving on our agenda. Our next item is an interim commissioner appointment to the Dedham Westwood Water Board. We have an opening for a commission due to a resignation. James Fox is moving out of Westwood and has submitted his resignation effective immediately. The open position will be posted on the town website and on the Dedham Westwood Water District website this week. The town will also include the posting in the Westwood Wire and on social media. In the meantime, John Hickey served as a water commissioner in 2016 before he was elected to the select board, and he is being recommended to serve as an interim commissioner until a permanent member is appointed. John Hickey has agreed to serve in this interim role. Questions or comments from my colleagues?
None for me.
I think John's a great nomination for the interim position.
With that, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the select board appoint John Hickey as Dedham Westwood Water Interim Commissioner representing Westwood for a term to begin on June 1st, 2023, and to serve in this role until the select board appoints a permanent water commissioner or until mutually agreed upon.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, John Hickey, for taking that on in an interim basis. Okay, our next item of business are select board liaison appointments. Rob and I have been serving in various capacities this year. And we need to fill the positions which have been left vacant. So Joe, I'm hoping you'd be willing to serve as liaison to the aid to the elderly and infirm, the air traffic noise abatement officer, actually, it would be, and the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee. Would you be willing to take those on, Joe?
I'll have to, Marianne, I need to ask Pat a question. Pat, any problem with Chris being on the on WAHA?
There may be a conflict there. It's something I need to take a look at. I don't think so, but I want to make sure. So why don't you accept the first two and we'll deal with the last one at the next meeting.
That's exactly what I was thinking to tell Madam Chair.
That makes good sense. Rob, we've already talked about long range. You've started it. I think you have a plan for going forward, and may I presume that you'd be willing to continue on with that?
I would be very, very happy to.
Wonderful. You have also been serving on the school building committee for quite a while. And I think given how much work has been done and that there's still work to go, I think there would be a lot of good continuity in your continuing with that committee as well.
That would be, I'm happy to do that.
And then lastly is WEAC. Are you willing to continue with WEAC?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And for my part, I'll continue with the Lean Process Board as a liaison to the Human Rights Task Force, the Commission on Disability, and I'll take on the Norfolk County Advisory Board. Mr. Ahern, do we need to vote on all of that?
You should.
Okay. Perhaps I could state what I just said, Rob, and you can move it. Would that be helpful?
That'd be great.
All
Rob,
right.
I can also say the select board appoints the members as previously stated to the boards and committees as we discussed.
Is there a second?
Can we have, I'll second it with caveat, some discussion.
Yes, not the position we talked about, Joe. So with the
We're
second,
not- we're not appointing you to they're not appointing you, the motion does not include an appointment to Fair Housing, Joe.
Thanks, Pat. I just didn't hear a name for the Norfolk County Selectmen's Association.
that position does not need to be filled because the group is not actively meeting. So we can
I knew
cross.
that, I was just testing.
Okay, so I think we have a motion that has been seconded, correct?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, roll call. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. We're going to turn to old business now, to the Westwood Media Center transfer of funds. I'm going to recuse myself. I'm going to turn the sound off. And if Chris, perhaps you could let me know when to return, please.
Yes, I will.
And I'll turn it over to you, Rob. Thank you.
Sure thing. As we do periodically, we transfer funds from Comcast and Verizon per the contracts for PEG access. And this is a standard practice for us. We have negotiated payment terms from Comcast and license agreements for funds to be received and transferred to Westwood Media Center, the town's local access channel. So per the agreement between the town and Westwood Media Center, the town is agreeing to transfer these funds pursuant to Section 8 of the Westwood Media Center agreement within 30 days of their receipt. And we are looking to transfer in the amounts of $45,809.88 and $4,726.60 from Comcast, and then from Verizon, we are looking to transfer $37,436.92 for a total of $87,973.40. I will ask, are there any questions with respect to the transfer of these funds? Joe, got any questions?
No, Rob.
All right. Joe, I'd entertain a motion if you would.
I'll propose the select board to approve the transfer of $50,536.48 from Comcast, as well as $37,436.92 from Verizon, totaling $87,973.40 to Westwood Media Center per the license agreement and the Westwood Media Center agreement signed by the select board.
Okay, I will second that out of necessity. Roll call, Joe?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Chris, if you could let Mary Ann know she can return.
I will.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Moving on, our next agenda item is the approval of our regular meeting minutes from May 8, 2023. Does anyone have any edits or additions to the minutes?
I had nothing.
No.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes from May 8th, 2023 as written.
Second.
Roll call, Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. We will now move to public and press. I do see that we have a couple of comments where we don't have addresses listed. Pat, am I correct that we can't read?
You should ask them to type in their address so we have a complete record.
Okay, so Ms. Morrison and Dr. Becker, if you could please type in your addresses. We'll get to the third question we have, and hopefully we'll have your addresses by the time we finish that one. So I'm going to turn to a question from Fran Fusco at 20 Pine Lane. Fran writes, the consultant we used for the fire operational study, Travis Miller Criterion Associates, is now working for a new company. WorldGate LLC. Is this an issue with him delaying / completing the operational study? Is there anyone who can address the status of Mr. Miller?
Marianne, the information we received on the delay was not because of a professional matter, it was because of a personal matter.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Morrison, oh, great. Kevin Becker, 1227 High Street, added a comment. Glad to see that the Long Range Financial Planning Committee will consider this potentially valuable resource for the town. I believe that's referring to the CPA. And we also have a question from Donna Morrison, 303 Oak Street. And she writes, why didn't the town and administration foresee the contract ending and do something at that time rather than Band-Aid the contract? And why weren't the staffing increases that were part of the 2013 study implemented for stations 1 and 2? Chris, do you want to take on the contract issue? Are you able to speak to that?
Sure, yes. I'm assuming Donna is referring to the collective bargaining agreement with the fire union. And just to remind the community and the board, back in fiscal year 22, we were still in COVID, and we offered 1-year contracts with all our representative groups at that time, or with our representative groups at that time. When we were coming out, we did offer a 1-year contract for fiscal year 23 with all representative groups. As of today, all representative groups except fire have agreed to fiscal year 22 and 23. I don't know if the Band-Aid approach referred to as a Band-Aid approach, but that was the approach that we took coming out of COVID and dealing with COVID. We have since, with the board's support, worked with the police superiors, the police union, our public works union, and currently working with our SEIU group on a 3-year deal that will cover fiscal years 24 through 26. We have reached agreements with the police superiors, the police union, and the DPW currently for those 3 fiscal years. In regards to the staffing study, Marianne, I wasn't here for the study in 2013, but I do know based off of our budget documents that the town did increase staffing in public safety in fiscal year 15, in fiscal year 18, and in fiscal year 20. And actually in fiscal year 18, there were 2 additional police officers. And in fiscal year 18, there were 4 additional firefighters. In fiscal year 20, the town added 2 additional firefighters. And in fiscal year 20, the town added 2 additional police officers and 1 communications center director. And that's referring to our dispatch center.
Thank you, Chris. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments from the public. So I will announce that our next meeting will be June 5, 2023 at 6 p.m. via Zoom. And with that, the select board will now be going into executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union personnel, specifically the Westwood Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 1994 IAFF, the discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion were in open session. The board will not be returning to open session.
I move that the board move into executive session for the aforementioned reasons.
Before I second that, Marianne, may I make one comment that I received an email this afternoon from work that this is National EMS Week. And I'd like to recognize the police officers, the firefighters, and the folks in the dispatch center for the great coordinated work that they do for this town. And I will second the wonderful, enthusiastic motion before us.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Good night, everyone.